Okay, so today we're going deep on a book that kind of throws the whole like typical success playbook right out the window.
Yeah.
It's How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big by Scott Adams,
Uh-huh.
which, if you don't recognize the name, you probably still recognize his work. He's the guy behind Dilbert,
Oh,
the
yeah.
comic strip. Like,
Yeah.
who better to give us the real deal on success than someone who's basically made a career out of pointing out all the ways we trip up in the office, right?
It's so true. And what I think is so interesting about this book is that Adams, he's not like some ivory tower guru. He's someone who's been in the trenches.
Yeah.
He's had his own wins and wipeouts, and you can tell he's like distilling all that experience into this approach that's well, it's counterintuitive for sure.
Yeah.
Like he's not sugarcoating anything. He's basically saying, look, you are going to fail. It's going to happen. So here's how to actually use that to your advantage.
Right. I am officially intrigued. Lay it on me.
Okay, so the first thing that I think is so interesting is this idea of ditching goals.
Ditching goals.
Yeah, like not completely, obviously, but kind of shifting the focus away from these rigid goals and instead building systems.
Okay.
It's like if you think about like a map, right?
Yeah.
Like instead of just fixating on that one destination point that might be kind of blurry, you're like building the super reliable compass that's always going to guide you in the right direction.
I like that analogy. That's good.
Thanks. And Adams has this great example. He talks about instead of obsessing over losing 20 pounds, which, let's be real, we've all been there.
Oh, yeah?
He says you build a system of, let's say, walking for just 30 minutes every day, rain or shine, no matter what. So the goal is still there, right?
Yeah.
You still want to lose the weight, but the system is like the engine that actually gets you there one step at a time consistently. So I'm curious, thinking about that, what's a one little habit, just a tiny one that you think you could systematize in your own life starting today?
You know, it's funny you should mention that because I was actually just thinking about this the other day.
Oh, really?
I've been meaning to drink more water, and I just keep forgetting. So maybe if I set like a reminder on my phone or something.
Exactly. Just make it automatic.
Yeah, like a little system.
And then you don't even have to think about it. It just happens.
It just happens. So, okay, Adams also kind of disses time management.
Right.
And says it's actually all about managing your energy. Is he telling us to like become energy vampires or something?
No, nothing like that. I mean, it's more about being strategic with your time, right?
Okay.
It's about figuring out when you are at your peak, when you have the most energy and focus naturally, and then scheduling your toughest tasks for those times.
Oh, so like think time blocking, the Pomodoro technique, even just like being really aware of when you're kind of zoning out a little bit.
That's exactly it. It's
Yeah.
all about working with your natural rhythms, not against them.
So no more like forcing myself to write that report at 8 p.m. when I'm basically a brain-dead zombie.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, now here's another interesting concept that Adams talks about. Skill stacking.
Oh, I love this one.
So the idea is that being like pretty good at a few different skills that work well together can actually be way more valuable than being like a master of just one thing.
It's like, think of yourself as a Swiss Army knife, right?
Okay, yeah.
Like you've got all these different tools that are useful in all these different situations. And the example that Adams gives is this idea of combining public speaking, writing, and basic accounting,
Okay.
which sounds kind of random, but when you think about it, it makes sense, right?
Yeah. Like if you're a musician, but you also know how to market yourself online, you suddenly have this massive advantage.
Really, it's like you're not just relying on one skill to get you where you want to go.
Right.
You've got this whole toolkit to draw from. So thinking about your own life, what skills do you already have?
Yeah.
And is there one that you could kind of add to that mix that would make you this like unique powerhouse?
I love that. That's great. Okay, so now let's talk about the big one.
Yeah.
Failure.
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one.
So Adams actually says we should embrace failure. Isn't that a little bit masochistic?
Not at all. It's actually really smart when you think about it.
Okay.
What he's doing is he's reframing failure. Instead of this like big scary thing that we need to avoid at all costs, he's saying it's valuable data. Like each time you stumble, each setback, it's an opportunity to learn and grow.
Okay.
So it's about detaching the emotion from the event. It's about analyzing what happened, figuring out what you can do differently next time, and just getting better.
Right. Right.
So I'm curious, thinking about your own life, is there a recent failure that you can think of?
Oh, there's so many to choose from.
I know, right?
I mean, just this week.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
I hear you.
So think about it. What did you learn from it? Like, how can you use that experience to do better next time?
That's a really good point. I might have to think about that one for a minute.
It's worth it, I promise.
Okay, now another thing that Adams talks about is self-care and how it's actually like essential for success.
Right, like it's not selfish. Yeah. And he's not talking about spa days, although those are nice too.
Always good.
He's talking about really prioritizing your physical and mental health.
Because, you can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Right.
You can't expect to perform at your best if you're running on fumes.
Yeah.
So things like getting enough sleep, exercising regularly, eating a healthy diet, these aren't like luxuries or indulgences. They're the fuel that keeps you going.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what's one small self-care action you can commit to doing today?
I've been so bad about making time for exercise lately.
It happens.
So maybe I'll just go for a quick walk later today, even if it's just for like 15 minutes.
That's perfect. Just get moving.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm starting to see a theme here.
Yeah.
Adams is all about working smarter, not just harder.
Totally.
And speaking of working smarter, he's a huge believer in optimism.
Yeah.
Not just as like wishful thinking, but as a strategy.
Uh-huh.
So how does that work?
Well, Adams believes that optimism fuels energy and creativity. Like, it helps you see possibilities where other people might just see roadblocks. And it's not about ignoring reality or pretending that everything's perfect. It's about choosing to focus on what you can control and then having that belief that a better outcome is possible.
So it's kind of like fake it till you make it.
More like believe it till you see it. And Adams also acknowledges that luck plays a role in success.
Sure.
But he doesn't just leave it at that. He talks about this idea of increasing your luck surface area.
Okay, so what does that mean?
Basically, it's about putting yourself out there, taking calculated risks, being open to new experiences.
Right.
The more you do that, the more chances you have for something good to happen. Like you're casting a wider net.
I like that, yeah.
So I'm curious, what's one small risk that you could take that might expand your luck surface area?
That's a good question. I've always wanted to try stand-up comedy,
Oh, wow.
but I've been too scared to actually get up on stage.
Yeah, I get it.
But maybe I'll just sign up for an open mic night or something. What's the worst that could happen?
You bomb.
Exactly. And then I learn from it, right?
See, full circle.
Okay, now once you're out there, taking risks, expanding your luck surface area, you also need to be able to convince people to get on board with your ideas, right?
Absolutely.
So Adams talks about this a lot, the importance of persuasion.
Yeah, he's a big believer in that.
And he emphasizes keeping things simple and clear, using contrast to highlight the important points, and weaving in personal stories to make your message memorable and engaging.
Uh-huh. Like nobody wants to listen to a boring lecture.
Right. It's more about connecting with people on an emotional level.
Exactly. So think about a time when you really needed to persuade someone. Maybe it was pitching a project at work.
Yeah.
Or convincing your friends to try a new restaurant or something. How could you have used these techniques to make your argument even more persuasive?
Ooh, that's a really good point. Okay, so here's an interesting twist.
Oh, what's that?
Adams doesn't believe in pursuing happiness directly. He sees it as a byproduct of making good decisions. So basically, it's not about chasing happiness. It's about creating a life that naturally generates happiness through meaningful work, strong relationships, healthy habits, all that good stuff.
Right, so it's like this positive feedback loop. The happier you are, the more likely you are to make good decisions, which in turn makes you even happier.
Exactly. It's a beautiful cycle. So what's one decision you can make today to kind of bump up your happiness set point?
Okay, well, I have been feeling kind of burnt out lately, so maybe tonight I'll just turn off my phone and take a long bath, read a book, just totally disconnect for a while.
Oh, that sounds so nice. I might have to steal that idea.
Feel free.
Okay, last but not least,
Hit me.
Adams is a big fan of affirmations.
Yes.
So the idea is that by repeating positive statements about your goals, it helps to keep your mind focused on what you want to achieve.
It's like programming your internal GPS towards success.
I love that. So what affirmation could you use to stay motivated and on track?
Okay, well, my big goal right now is to finish writing my book. So maybe my affirmation could be something like, I am a talented writer and my book is going to be amazing.
I love it.
Yeah.
Manifest it. So we covered a lot of ground today, but I think the big takeaway is this.
Yeah.
Instead of chasing that finish line that always seems to be moving further away,
Right.
we should focus on building a system for a journey that's actually fulfilling. Embrace the stumbles, learn from them, and just keep moving forward.
Absolutely. And as you're moving forward, I want you to ask yourself this.
Okay.
What failures in your life are actually just seeds of future success waiting to sprout? What can you learn from them? How can you use those experiences to propel yourself forward?
That's a really powerful question. I'm going to have to sit with that one for a while.
Me too.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Scott Adams's How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We hope you found some valuable insights, and more importantly, that you feel inspired to try out some of his unconventional strategies in your own life. And who knows, maybe you'll even find yourself winning big along the way.
Even with a few stumbles along the way, right?
Exactly.
Which, let's be honest, are probably going to happen.
They're going to happen.
But hey, that's just part of the journey.
That's all part of the journey. All right, thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya!